Hello and welcome to this video on the LEADER program. The LEADER program is an example of neo-endogenous development. First of all, the LEADER program and LEADER itself is an acronym and derives from the French words Liaison entre Action de Développement de l'économie rurale, which means links between the rural economy and development actions. The idea of the LEADER program is to enlist the energy and resources of people and bodies that could contribute to the rural development process by forming partnerships at a sub-regional level between the public, private and civil sectors. This is a very good example of neo-endogenous development because it is a mixture of bottom-up and top-down bodies working together in order to solve particular challenges or issues that face rural areas. In 1990, when a group of officials at the European Commission came up with the proposal for LEADER, the concept of connecting with people was quite new. The LEADER approach is very much associated with local empowerment through local strategy development and resource allocation. And the LEADER program has been very successful in supporting social enterprises and community enterprises in Ireland. It's important to note as well that the LEADER program operates across all of the European Union, and the main tool for the application of the LEADER approach to area development and involving local representatives in decision making is the Local Action Group, also known as a LAG. So, in the experimental phase in 1991 to 1993, LEADER involved 217 regions, focusing mostly on those which were disadvantaged. This was also true for the 1994 to 1999 program period. In 2000 to 2006, based on the encouraging results, the method quickly expanded to cover all types of rural areas. In its fourth programming period, from 2007 to 2013, the approach was mainstreamed as an integral part of the European Union's rural development policy and covered 2,402 rural territories across all member states. This method has also been extended thematically to fisheries policy, with some 3,000 fisheries local action groups on that side. So it's important to acknowledge that the LEADER program has expanded quite significantly in recent decades and encompasses every rural region within the European Union. And this methodology of utilising LEADER and setting up local action groups in order to solve local challenges or problems has been advocated as best practice by the European Commission, the European Court of Auditors, the OECD and ESPON, and they've all produced independent evaluations on the LEADER program over recent years. And each of these evaluations very much favoured the decentralisation and retention and further development of the LEADER model, and that it should be independent of local government, but still working in partnership with local authorities. And very much that the LEADER program should continue to have a very strong emphasis on collaboration, where public bodies, local industries, the higher education sector and civil society can work together in order to bring about positive economic, social changes within a rural territory. And in the 2014 to 2020 program period of the LEADER program, the emphasis was moved much more strongly towards community-led local development, where local communities could develop their own strategies for socioeconomic development. So according to the European Commission, over the past 20 years, the LEADER approach to community-led local development was designed to help rural actors consider the long-term potential of their local region, has proven an effective and efficient tool in the delivery of development policies. The community-led local development approach can mobilise and involve local communities and organisations to contribute to achieving the European 2020 strategy goals of smart, sustainable and inclusive growth, thereby fostering territorial cohesion and reaching specific policy objectives. And therefore, it is a very much an effective tool for the development of policy interventions at a local level. And it is very much favoured in allowing for collaboration, and basically allows for a space for interaction between state, civil society bodies, industry, and higher education. In the past, very much development at a local level or within a state level was very much focused on making sure that all rural areas were treated equally, very much about increasing farmers' incomes and increasing farm competitiveness. The new approach to rural development is looking very much at the competitiveness of all rural areas, the valorisation of local assets, and exploitation of unused resources. And basically, the emphasis has been moved away solely from agriculture, but looking at the diversity and range of economic activities that can take place within a rural area. So no longer is agriculture being the key target sector. It now looks at other types of activities such as rural tourism, manufacturing, information communication technologies, and other types of industry. In the past, rural development was very strongly aligned to the provision of subsidies, and mostly these subsidies were provided to farmers. Now the new terminology utilised in the policy documents is that we should invest in rural areas, that we should invest in public infrastructure, invest in businesses, invest in social infrastructure within communities. And therefore, the development of community-owned enterprises and investing in this topic would be seen as strategically important into the future. In the past, the key actors in the dialogue around economic development, especially in rural areas, very much involved national governments and farmers. Now this is much more broader. It is much more collaborative. So basically all levels of government, supranational, national, regional, local, are involved in the decision-making process, but they also have to very much consult and engage with various other local stakeholders, whether they be public, private, or non-governmental organisations. And therefore, the LEADER programme is very much enabling and fostering bottom-up participation. And according to ESPON 2009, competitiveness is a bottom-up process in which individuals, firms, institutions take and share responsibility to address the specific barriers faced by their region and companies in a given market, and not just the general challenges. In delivering the Europe 2020 strategy, local and regional governments and development agencies across rural Europe will need to look at their own specific situations and see how they might work with other partners to develop rural business clusters. And therefore, it is very important that that if there is a gap in the market whereby the state is no longer providing services or goods, or if the private sector is no longer providing goods and services, then local communities, representatives within the local communities can come together in order to establish a community-owned social enterprise in order to fill the vacuum. And it is very much there's very much a shared responsibility in providing the goods and services, which the state or the market are not providing. The aims of the Europe 2020 require that territorial diversity is acknowledged and that the full advantage is taken of the distinctiveness of Europe's regions and municipalities. And basically, no one approach can be replicated across all of Europe. All rural areas, for instance, are very heterogeneous. They're all very different, and therefore different strategies and different methodologies have to be applied. And with regards to leader, there's a very strong territorial dimension. A territorial dimension is also needed to fully grasp the different types of challenges for regional development of the Europe 2020 strategy, and its richness allows for better inclusion of key public and private stakeholders at local and regional level. And there is a very strong emphasis in allowing for multi-stakeholder contributions towards maybe solving and resolving key challenges. And very much a community-owned enterprise is very much set up in order to solve a particular problem or issue. A community-owned enterprise has a core mission or a core mission and vision associated with it. And when we look at the 7 key features associated with the leader approach, one is that there's it's area-based. It develops an area-based local development strategy, and this local development strategy is evidence-based. All key stakeholders within the area are consulted. The key challenges are identified, and this can also involve utilising maybe census data. And this local development strategy sets out key priorities and actions and identifies who's responsible for resolving them. And sometimes it may entail the setting up of a social enterprise or a community-owned enterprise in order to address a specific issue. There's also very much bottom-up elaboration and implementation of the strategies. So, and it is critical that all local actors, whether they be from industry or civil society, are consulted and have an active part in the decision-making process, but also in the implementation of key actions. There's also very strong linkages between the public and private sector, and these linkages are fostered through the development of local action groups. And neither the public or private sector has a monopoly over the decision-making process, and is very much fostering integrated development, and it's also fostering in essence, neo-endogenous development, where there's a partnership and collaboration at the fore. And all sectors within the rural economy need to be around the table discussing the issues at hand. And therefore, it is very much adopting this new paradigm approach as outlined by the OECD, insofar as that it is multi-sectorial. All sectors are included. In addition to that, the solutions offered through neo-endogenous development and through the leader approach can enable innovation, new ways of doing things, coming up with local solutions to solve local problems. And a key facet associated with the leader approach, that it involves cooperation, that everybody is included and nobody is excluded. And in addition to that, it avoids duplication. So no two entities or organisations are putting in interventions without speaking to others, and therefore it may offer the best value of money. And also as well, the leader approach encourages networking, where different local action groups within the country or further afield can work together and share best practices, but equally explain how maybe something has not worked as well for them. And it is important to note that the leader programme has supported many social enterprises in Ireland, whether it be providing them maybe grants for initial setup. It has also for mentoring, and for maybe providing some of the initial capital infrastructure. When we look at the case studies which we developed as part of this ComEnt project, you will notice that, for instance, the cottage in Lochmore, that its initial startup costs were provided but through a leader grant. So very much the leader programme has been very supportive of community-owned and community-run initiatives, especially in the social enterprise sector. And even taking the approach itself, the leader programme approach, it is very much in essence it's very inclusive. It allows for collaboration in order to solve a problem. And we would maybe envisage that a community-owned enterprise would take some or all of these features in order to maybe to devise a strategy in order to resolve maybe a particular issue or challenge that is facing a community. The local development strategy is very much, as I said, focused on specific sub-regional areas. It's led by local development action groups composed of representatives of public and private local socio-economic interests, in which at the decision-making level neither public authorities nor any single interest group represents more than 49% of the voting rights. It's carried out through integrated and multi-sectorial area-based local development strategies, and it's designed taking into consideration local needs and potential, and should include innovative features in the local context, networking, and where appropriate, cooperation. And the local action group has a number of characteristics associated with it. Professional organisations and unions representing farmers, non-farming professionals and micro-enterprises should have a membership of the local action group. So also represented here should be citizens, residents and their local organisations. So local community councils could have a part in it. environmental associations, local institutions and administrations, cultural and community service providers, and external networks and research bodies. That includes the higher education sector. And as I said, maybe community enterprises themselves could be considered a member of the could be represented by micro enterprises. So local action groups are groups of people made up, as I said, of both public and private partners from a defined geographical area. LAGs are responsible for both the design and implementation of the leader local development strategy in any given area, and as part of this, LAGs are responsible for supporting local projects and contribute to the aims and objectives of the local development strategy. And in Ireland, there is actually a regulatory framework in place for LAGs. So insofar as they should build the capacity of local actors to develop and implement operations, including fostering their project management capabilities. It should be drawing up a non-discriminatory and transparent selection procedure and objective criteria for the selection of operations which avoid conflicts of interest, ensure that at least 50% of the votes in selection decisions are cast by partners which are not public authorities, and allow selection by written procedure. It also should ensure coherence with community-led local development strategy when selecting operations by prioritizing those operations according to their contribution to meeting the strategy's objectives and targets. They should be preparing and publishing calls for proposals or an ongoing project submission procedure, including defining the selection criteria. They should also receive and assess applications for support. They select operations and fixing the amount of support, and where relevant, presenting the proposals to the body responsible for their verification of eligibility before approval, and they monitor the implementation of community-led local development strategy and operation supported, and carry out specific evaluation activities linked to the strategy. And here in Ireland, LAGs or leader groups in the 2014 to 2020 operating period covered 3 key areas, and these key areas were devised very much by the European Commission. And one of them was economic development, enterprise development and job creation. And under this category, Ireland prioritised the development of projects around rural tourism, enterprise development, and a very specific area here was the development of social enterprises within rural areas. And I've uploaded a paper for you here around this topic, so you can read in your own time. They also prioritised rural towns and the rollout of broadband in rural areas. The second key theme revolved around social inclusion, building basic services which are targeted at hard to reach communities. Examples of that would be the traveller population, Roma Gypsy populations, looking at also looking at people with disabilities, looking at also it included long-term unemployed. These are just some examples. Another area was looking at rural youth and making sure that appropriate services and good services were being provided for rural youth so that they would maybe stay in the rural area. And also the final area around the rural environment. And Ireland prioritised actions around that promoted protection and sustainable use of water resources, protection and implementation of local biodiversity, and the development of renewable energies. And it is very important to note that yes, these priorities have been set out by the European Commission, and the national government here in Ireland, but local communities and LAGs were able to devise their own initiatives which were innovative in order to maybe resolve key challenges associated with these areas. And rural areas were provided, LAGs were provided a lot of flexibility in around how they could implement projects. However, it is important to note as well that the LEADER programme is very administrative heavy, very bureaucratic, and this may to an extent be very off-putting for LAGs and for individuals and companies. Furthermore, it is important to note that the LEADER programme is one area, is one mechanism which has been very supportive, as I said, of creating and fostering social enterprise and community-owned enterprises. And very much, it is also a very good example of neo-endogenous development, where a partnership approach has been adopted in order to solve challenges, in order to address challenges faced by rural areas, and that the public sector does not have a monopoly over the decision-making process. I think that is very important. So neo-endogenous development is very much appreciating and valorising cooperation amongst various different stakeholders at a local level, and very much it is a key feature of community development, where a partnership approach is taken to solving problems or challenges.